Okay, good Erev Shabbos to everyone. Again, I want to thank Rabbi Rosenberg for providing the technology to be able to do this every week, and it gives me an opportunity to be able to reach out and to speak to all of you. And even though we're not able to see each other, hopefully that in this way, this small way, we still stay in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to stay in touch until in good health, until finally this disease is finally over, and God will give us the ability to be able to go back to what we call normal. This week's parsha, which happens to be a double parsha of Chukat and Balak, Chukat is, in the parsha of Chukat, is right at the end. Actually, I touched upon it in the parsha class last night. In the battle, so there were two great giants with their armies who came to attack the Jews, and Moshe defeated both of them, both Sichon, the king of the Amori, and Balak, and Og, who was the king of Bashan. And it says that when Moshe fought against Sichon, it doesn't say anything. He was afraid. He just went to battle. He defeated him. He killed him, and that was it. Yet when it comes to battling with Og, there God says to Moshe, Al tiroto, don't be afraid of him, which obviously means that Moshe was afraid of him. And so the question is why? Why was he afraid of him and not the other giant? Obviously, Moshe was not afraid of the gigantic proportions of this man. I mean, there's a medrash, which you don't have to take literally, but the medrash says that Moshe was 10 amot tall. Amot sail is about 2 feet. He was 10 amot tall. He had a spear that reached 10 amot, and he jumped 10 amot into the air, and was able to hit Og in the ankle. So it tells you that Og was a tremendously tall person. Doesn't mean necessarily that you have to take that literally. It just means that he was a very, very a man of gigantic proportions. So, but that's not the reason Moshe was afraid of him, because Sichon was also of gigantic proportions, and Moshe wasn't afraid of him. So Rashi asks the question: Why is Moshe afraid of Og? Answers Rashi that he's afraid of him because Og has a certain merit. What's the merit? It seems that Og lived for a very, very long time. And Og was already alive in the time of Avraham. Now, the time of Avraham was several hundred years earlier before Moshe. And yet, Avraham, what happened was that the 4 kings, there was a great battle, I call it the First World War, in which the 4 kings fought against the 5 kings. And among the 5 kings was the king of Sodom. And the city of Sodom was Avraham's nephew, Lot. And the 4 kings defeated the 5 kings and captured their wealth and all of their people from the cities, and they took them away. Avram was unaware of this. Og, who had been defeated, his race of giants had been defeated in an earlier battle with the 4 kings, came to Avraham and told Avraham about what happened to Lot. And Avraham therefore said to Lot, I'll get it straight here. It said to Og, sorry guys, said to Og that, thank you very much. And he got together his army, a magnificent army of 318 men, to go fight these gigantic armies that were very successful, and defeated them. He was able to free all of the captives that the 4 kings had captured, and he freed Lot, his nephew, as well. So, this is the merit that Moshe was afraid of. In fact, this merit was so great that Og lived for all of these years. He was able to live for several hundred years because of the merit of what he'd done for Avraham, to tell Avraham about his nephew. However, the rabbis tell us that Og was not really a very nice person, and he had ulterior motives. The motive was that he knew that Avraham would go to battle to save his nephew, and in the battle, Og was sure that Avraham would be killed, and then Avram's wife, Sarah, would become a widow, and Og would then be able to marry her. Again, Sarah was famous for her beauty, and he wanted to marry her for that reason. And yet, the question is raised: why was it that Og had this merit? If in fact he did have ulterior motives, why did he have this particular merit? And why should Moshe be afraid of that? Moshe was aware, according to many opinions, Moshe was aware that Og had ulterior motives. And certainly God knew he did, and yet God gave him the reward of living all these years, and Moshe was afraid of him still. The answer is very simple, because the rabbis say, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ein mekapeach schar mikol beria. God does not withhold a reward for anybody for any good they do. Whatever their motives are, whatever their purposes are, God does not withhold the reward from anyone. Everyone gets the reward. And so from this you can learn an important lesson. If God gives a reward to someone who has bad ulterior motives, can you imagine somebody who has the right motives? Can you imagine the reward a person will get? So I want to share with you a story that I just read recently, and I think that it'll be an inspiring story to all of us. In this particular town, I don't know exactly when this happened. It seems it happened at least 200 years ago, probably. In this particular town, there was a baker. His name was Shmelka the baker. Shmelka was a very, very fine person, a wonderful person, a person that everyone respected and loved. He had a friend. This friend, unfortunately, fell behind in paying his taxes to the gevir, to the poritz, the landowner, and because of that, the landowner threatened him and eventually had him arrested and put into prison. Now, all of this happened just a few days before Yom Kippur. Shmelka knew that he had to go around collecting the money to pay the tax, or his friend would never be able to get out of prison in time for Yom Kippur. So Shmelka went around and he went from person to person asking him for help. And everyone gave beyond their means. But he still was short 200 rubles. 200 rubles. So he didn't know what to do. And it was Erev Yom Kippur. It was about 5-6 hours before Yom Kippur. He had no idea what he was going to do to be able to get those 200 rubles. As he's walking by, he hears in the local bar 5 Jews, unfortunately secular Jews, who no longer had anything to do with Judaism, and they were having a good time. Here was Erev Yom Kippur a couple hours before. Most Jews are preparing Erev Yom Kippur by getting into a serious mood and thinking about how to do tshuva and what they have to do tshuva for. And these 5 guys are having a raucous time. They're having a good old time over there. But then Shmelka said, they're still Jews. It's Erev Yom Kippur. Maybe I can give them the opportunity to create merits for themselves on Erev Yom Kippur. So he walks into the bar and he sits down with these guys. They look at him and he said, Shmelka, you came to get a drink, a little vodka before the fast, huh? Okay. Oh, no. Maybe he came to take that chicken and wave it over our heads. Maybe that's why he's here. So Shmelka said, well, actually I'm here to give you guys an opportunity. They said, really? What's the opportunity? He told them the story about his friend in prison. And he said, I'm short 200 rubles. So the one fellow said, I'll tell you what, we'll give you 100 rubles on one condition. He said, give me 100 rubles? He said, yeah, but one condition. You have to drink this entire cup of vodka down. Now, Shmelka was not very good at drinking. He would take a little shot glass maybe, but a whole cup of vodka would be too much for him. And he was afraid what would happen to him on Erev Yom Kippur. He's going to be drunk Erev Yom Kippur. How is he going to be able to prepare and daven properly on Yom Kippur? But then he thought to himself, I've got to do this. This person, I've got to get him out of jail. Here's 100 rubles. So he slowly but surely sipped that vodka, little by little, and these guys were having a great time, and they're laughing, and they were hitting each other, and they were just in a great on time. Finally, Shmelka finished it. He was drunk. He was really tipsy. So they said, well, you kept your part of the bargain. Here's 100 rubles. And then one guy said, you know what? You still need another 100 rubles, right, Shmelka? And Shmelka said, yeah, right, yeah. So the fellow said, I'll tell you what, Shmelka, I'll give you the other 100 rubles if you drink the other glass. And Shmelka thought to himself, I couldn't even finish the first one. How am I going to finish the second one? But the guy said, only on the condition that you finish the other glass. So Shmelka slowly drank it till finally he finished it, and he actually was so drunk he fell off his chair. He couldn't even stand straight. I gave him the other 100 rubles, so now he had the 200 rubles, and he made sure to give it to somebody to pass it on to the gevir, to the poritz, so that his friend can be out of jail in time for Yom Kippur. Meanwhile, Shmelka was carried back home, and he fell asleep because he was so drunk. They finally went to shul. Everyone went to shul, and they're davening. Finally, in the middle of the davening of Yom Kippur night, Shmelka comes basically crawling into the shul and lays down in the back. And he falls asleep and he's snoring out loud. Now, most people are not aware what happened. The Rav was aware, and the Rav knew what Shmelka had done. Most people thought, this is terrible. How could Shmelka act like this on Yom Kippur night? So finally, Shmelka woke up. He didn't know where he was, and he didn't know when it was. He knew where he was, but he didn't know what it was. He gets up, he walks over to the Aron Kodesh, opens it up, and starts singing the song for Simchas Torah. He thinks it's Simchas Torah. Everybody is so aghast, and they're thinking. So the Rav quiets everybody down, and he says, listen, we are beginning now Yom Kippur, and then from Yom Kippur, He said we're going to go in through Yom Kippur, we're going to go into Sukkot, preparation for Sukkot, and then we're going to go into Hoshana Rabbah, to Shmini Atzeret, and finally to Simchat Torah. And he told everyone again what Shmelka had done. He said Shmelka is on such a high spiritual level, he's already holding by Simchat Torah. He doesn't need Yom Kippur and all the other things. That's the greatness of what he had done. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I mean by Kadosh Baruch Hu ein mekapeh schar mikol beria. God does not withhold the reward from anybody. This man, what he did, so you would think that this poor guy, he should be the outcast of the town. Instead, he got the reward of being on such a great spiritual level for what he did to become drunk in order to be able to save another Jew, to be able to be free as well. So next time we have an opportunity, think about all the opportunities that we have. Never look at tzedakah as a burden. Never look at davening as a burden. Never look at giving chesed or being kind to a person as a burden. It's an opportunity God has presented with us. And God will not forget what we have done. Somehow we will get the reward. Maybe we won't. Maybe our children will, our grandchildren. But usually we do get the reward and we see it. And and of course we don't do it for the reward. But you can be sure that Hashem will reward us some way. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.